I'm getting fine by the day, baby. What you waiting on? See. You gonna wait till I get real fine, and I'm gonna pay you no mind when I get real fine.
Many niggas ain't get to make it. It's amazing that I made it. How come I dry? It was storming and rain.
On February 23rd, 2025, at 6:47 a.m., a 911 call came in from a residential home in Jackson, Mississippi. The voice on the line was calm but urgent. She said her husband had been shot. She said she did it. When officers arrived minutes later, they found a man lying face up in the living room, one gunshot wound. No signs of forced entry. No third party. Just the wife, the gun, and the body. The shooter was Rashawn Wallace, a licensed nurse with no criminal history. The victim was her husband, Damian Reed, a local mechanic. Married for 5 years. No previous domestic violence reports. No warning signs to the outside world. But one thing triggered it all, a Facebook friend request. Rashawn claimed she felt threatened. She said she fired a warning shot, then a second shot. Damian collapsed. She called for help. Within hours, Rashawn was arrested and charged with murder. This is not a story about passion. This is not a story about heartbreak. This is a case of one click, one confrontation, and one irreversible decision. Welcome to True Crime Unmasked. Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more stories. The show where we uncover the disturbing crimes tearing communities apart and the haunting truths hidden behind closed doors. These are real stories, real individuals, real consequences. Stay tuned for more captivating stories. Now, let's dive in.
The woman who allegedly shot and killed her husband was given a $50,000 bond in Jackson Municipal Court today. Police say around 11:30 yesterday morning, 30-year-old Rashawn Wallace shot and killed 33-year-old Damian Reed after he allegedly attacked her. It happened on Brook Hollow Drive in Jackson. Wallace is charged with murder.
Damian Reed was 33 years old at the time of his death. Born and raised in Jackson, Mississippi, he lived his entire life in the city. He worked as a local auto mechanic, owning a small garage where he repaired cars for residents in the neighborhood. Most of his clients were walk-ins or regulars, and he earned a reputation for being consistent, reasonably priced, and professional. His shop was not large, but it stayed busy enough to support his household and maintain steady income. He was not active on social media. He did not post personal photos or opinions. Most of his online presence was limited to business listings and local classifieds where he advertised his services. He preferred face-to-face interaction and was known to be reserved in conversation. According to multiple customer reviews and police interviews with neighbors, Damian rarely spoke about his private life. He was married to Rashawn Wallace for 5 years. Their relationship began shortly after Rashawn completed nursing school. They met through mutual friends and got married within 2 years of dating. There is no record of domestic violence, restraining orders, or previous arrests involving Damian Reed in the state of Mississippi. A standard criminal background check shows no history of charges, felonies, or misdemeanors. According to public records, the couple did not have any confirmed children at the time of the incident. Some sources speculated about pregnancy or previous miscarriages, but no documented reports or birth certificates exist. They lived in a modest 2-bedroom house in the southern part of Jackson. The house was jointly owned, purchased shortly after their wedding. Damian was known by those around him as a quiet man. He maintained a small circle of friends, mostly fellow mechanics, old classmates, or neighbors he had known for years. People who interacted with him described him as serious, focused, and not the type to talk a lot. He attended community events occasionally, but was not involved in church groups, political activities, or local volunteer programs. Rashawn Wallace entered the healthcare field shortly after completing her secondary education. She was enrolled in a state-approved nursing program and later graduated from a technical college in Mississippi. After graduation, she successfully passed a National Council licensure examination for practical nurses. This qualified her to work legally as an LPN in the state. Rashawn was legally married to Damian Reed. Their marriage 5 years before the shooting. There are no public records of any previous marriages or children. They lived together in a single-family home in Jackson, located in a middle-income residential area. property records show they had no history of foreclosures, liens, or legal disputes related to their residence. There were no prior domestic violence reports filed with law enforcement regarding Rashawn or Damien. Neighbors reported seeing the couple regularly, but did not observe any unusual activity or signs of tension. No police calls had ever been made to their address prior to the shooting. Rashawn had no criminal history. Background checks revealed no arrests, charges, or convictions in any U.S. state. Her name did not appear on any state or federal watch lists. In early February 2025, Rashawn logged into her Facebook account. She went through her friend's suggestions and saw the name of a man she had known in the past. According to later police interviews and phone record data, the man was an ex-boyfriend from before her marriage to Damien Reed. Rashawn sent a friend request. Within 24 hours, the request was accepted. The two began exchanging private messages. The exact content of the messages was not made fully public, but phone forensics confirmed that communication was consistent over multiple days and included casual conversation. These chats took place mostly late at night and during Rashawn's work breaks. Damien Reed, her husband, gained access to her Facebook activity several days later. It is still unclear whether he saw the messages directly or was notified by another person. However, on February 18th, 2025, Damien confronted Rashawn about the friend request and the ongoing chat. The conversation turned into a verbal disagreement. According to Rashawn's later statement to investigators, Damien accused her of being unfaithful. She denied the accusation, stating the messages were harmless and non-romantic. Despite her denial, the argument did not end. Over the next few days, the same topic resurfaced multiple times. Verbal fights continued in the home. Neighbors reported hearing raised voices but did not contact law enforcement. There were no records of police involvement or calls made by either party during this period. Between February 18th and February 22nd, Damien reportedly brought up the Facebook messages at least 3 more times. Rashawn told police she had explained herself repeatedly, but that Damien did not believe her. Damien allegedly told her that reconnecting with an old flame was a form of betrayal. According to device history, Damien also searched online for ways to recover deleted Facebook messages, suggesting he may have suspected more was being hidden. The couple continued to share the same space during this time. Both went to work during the day and returned home in the evenings. Friends later told authorities that Rashawn appeared distracted and that Damien was unusually quiet at work. These behavioral changes were observed but not acted on by anyone in their immediate circle. On February 22nd, the day before the shooting, Rashawn received another message from the same ex-boyfriend. It was reportedly short and vague. This final message, while not disclosed in public documents, was described as a check-in or casual follow-up. There was no evidence of a planned physical meeting between Rashawn and the ex-boyfriend. That evening, Damien asked to see her phone again. Rashawn refused. This refusal reportedly triggered another verbal exchange. This time, the argument lasted longer than previous ones. There is no report that either party physically assaulted the other at any point during this interaction. However, Rashawn later stated that Damien's voice was louder and more aggressive than usual. Despite the ongoing disputes, no third party was contacted. No relative, friend, or authority figure was informed. No legal or formal complaint was made to police or any domestic support agency. There were no signs of physical injuries, no written threats, and no attempt to leave the shared residence by either person. Both individuals remained in the home overnight. The following morning, February 23rd, 2025, the situation escalated into a fatal event. Damien allegedly initiated another confrontation as Rashawn was preparing for work. The confrontation reportedly escalated from verbal questioning to raised voices. Rashawn told police that Damien's tone and posture changed, and she began to feel physically unsafe. She stated that Damien approached her aggressively, and she interpreted this as a threat to her safety. In response, Rashawn moved to retrieve a firearm that she said was kept either in a drawer or on a nearby table. This detail remains under investigation. The gun was a legally owned handgun registered in her name. She claimed she had never used a weapon in any prior incident. At this point, Rashawn stated that she issued a verbal warning and fired one shot into the air or toward the ground as a deterrent. However, this warning shot did not stop Damien from continuing his advance. Rashawn said she believed her life was in immediate danger. She then fired a second shot, this time striking Damien in the chest at close range. Damien collapsed on the floor. Rashawn stated that she immediately dropped the weapon and attempted CPR in an effort to resuscitate him. She followed emergency medical protocols she had learned during her nurse training. Despite her efforts, Damien remained unresponsive. At 6:47 a.m., Rashawn called 911. The call log confirms that she clearly stated she had shot her husband and requested medical help. Dispatchers sent police and paramedics to the residence immediately. Emergency services arrived on scene within minutes and found Damien Reed lying face up in a living room with a visible gunshot wound to the upper chest area. He was declared dead at the scene. The dispatcher followed standard procedure, kept her on the line, collected the necessary information, and dispatched officers to the home. Emergency units were routed to the location within 2 minutes of the call. Units from the Jackson Police Department, along with EMT personnel, arrived at the scene shortly after 7 a.m. The address was a single-family residential house located on a quiet street with little activity at that hour. Officers approached the house cautiously. The front door was unlocked. Upon entering, they immediately located the victim, Damien Reed, age 33, lying on his back in the living room area. He had one visible gunshot wound to the chest. There were no other injuries observed on his body. EMTs attempted to administer aid, but he was unresponsive. At 7:11 a.m., Damien Reed was pronounced dead at the scene. Officers found no signs of forced entry into the home. All windows were intact. There were no broken locks, no signs of a struggle outside the room, and no indication that a third party had been present. Based on the immediate evidence, they determined that only 2 individuals were involved, Rashawn Wallace and her deceased husband. Police secured the scene and followed protocol. The officers separated Rashawn from the body and detained her immediately. She was not handcuffed at that moment, but was instructed to remain seated and was placed under direct supervision while the scene was assessed. Officers asked basic preliminary questions to confirm identities and sequence of events. She repeated what she said in the 911 call, that she and her husband had argued, that she felt threatened, and that she shot him. A .380 caliber handgun was recovered from the scene. It was located on a nearby side table, within arm's reach of where Rashawn had been sitting. The firearm was not secured in a lockbox or holster. It had 2 spent casings in the cylinder, confirming her statement that she had fired 2 rounds, one possibly as a warning, the other fatal. Officers took note of the surroundings. The house was in relatively neat condition. There were no signs of physical struggle, such as overturned furniture, broken items, or blood trails in other rooms. The only blood was under and around Damien's body, which appeared to have dropped in place after being shot. Once the scene was secured, within hours, Rashawn was officially charged with murder and transported to the police station for questioning. She was not resisting and did not request legal representation at the time of arrest. Her clothing was collected as evidence, and she was processed through standard booking procedures. Meanwhile, forensics investigators began processing the home. The handgun was taken into evidence, photographed in its exact position before removal. Casings were bagged. Damien's body was photographed and later transported for autopsy. His identity was confirmed through state-issued ID and visual confirmation by authorities. Police also began a digital sweep of the house. Rashawn's cell phone was seized with a warrant request to search her recent messages, especially Facebook Messenger. Investigators also collected Damien's phone, which was found plugged into a charger in the bedroom. Both devices were logged for forensic analysis. Detectives interviewed neighbors. 2 said they didn't hear any gunshots, but one neighbor 3 doors down claimed they heard what sounded like a loud pop followed by a woman shouting. That report was time-stamped around 6:40 a.m., consistent with a 911 call. The entire home was cordoned off with police tape for over 12 hours. Officers preserved all entry points, photographed every room, and tagged all physical evidence. Items of interest included the weapon, both cell phones, a laptop on the dining table, and a handwritten note near the kitchen area that appeared to contain names and phone numbers. By 8 a.m., the case had officially shifted to a homicide investigation. Based on Rashawn's voluntary confession and presence at the scene, she was held without incident. The charge of murder was filed before noon that same day. The Jackson Police Department confirmed the incident in a press release, but did not release full case details due to the active investigation. Rashawn Wallace remained in custody as further digital and forensic evidence was compiled to determine the exact circumstances surrounding the fatal shooting. She was booked into the Hinds County Jail that same day. Mugshots and booking records were made public within 24 hours. She was placed in protective custody, pending her bail hearing. On February 24th, 2025, Rashawn Wallace appeared before a county judge via video call for her bond hearing. The prosecution recommended that no bond be offered due to the seriousness of the charge. However, after hearing both sides, the judge set her bond at $50,000. This amount was based on several factors: no prior criminal record, no history of flight risk, full cooperation with police, employment as a licensed nurse, strong community ties. Her legal representation entered a not guilty plea on her behalf during the hearing. Rashawn's legal team stated their client acted in self-defense. According to their claim, the shooting occurred after a domestic dispute escalated and Rashawn believed her life was in immediate danger. Her lawyer argued the following points. Rashawn felt threatened during the argument. Damien allegedly charged at her aggressively. She fired one warning shot. When Damien continued advancing, she fired again, striking him. She called 911 and attempted CPR. She never tried to flee the scene. The defense pointed out that Rashawn had never been in trouble with the law before. She had a clean record, no history of violence, and no known drug or alcohol issues. They emphasized her role as a licensed healthcare professional who was trained to save lives, not take them. Her attorney described the shooting as an impulsive reaction to fear, not a planned attack. To support the self-defense claim, her legal team requested access to autopsy reports, ballistics testing, home security footage, if any existed, digital evidence from phones and social media accounts, any witness statements or neighbor reports. They also asked the court to consider psychological evaluations of Rashawn to assess her state of mind during the incident. The district attorney's office rejected the self-defense claim, describing the act as an overreaction and a deliberate choice made during an argument. The prosecution presented a counter-narrative based on the facts. Rashawn had control of the gun. She fired 2 shots, not one. The second shot was aimed directly at Damien's chest. There were no physical injuries on Rashawn to support a violent struggle. No prior reports of abuse between the couple were ever filed. They focused on motive, a domestic dispute triggered by jealousy, control, or anger over online communication. Prosecutors claimed that if Rashawn truly feared for her life, she could have exited the house, called 911 before using the weapon, or retreated to another room. Instead, she chose to fire, with one of those bullets ending her husband's life. To strengthen their argument, the prosecution planned to use forensic analysis of the shooting distance, phone messages leading up to the incident, Rashawn's own 911 call and police interview, past social media posts, any available text between Rashawn and the ex-boyfriend. When the news broke that a woman had fatally shot her husband over an online interaction, media outlets responded quickly. By noon on the same day, February 23rd, 2025, multiple local news stations had picked up the story. They confirmed that 30-year-old nurse Rashawn Wallace had been arrested for shooting her husband, 33-year-old Damien Reed, inside their home in Jackson, Mississippi. Local television stations reported that the shooting appeared to be domestic, with no outside involvement. Reporters standing outside the couple's home described the scene as quiet, with a few officers and crime scene tape still present. Neighbors interviewed on camera stated that the couple had kept to themselves and that no one had heard gunshots or loud fighting that morning. The incident was unexpected to those living nearby. By the end of the day, the case had moved from local broadcast to regional coverage. News websites in nearby states began publishing brief articles summarizing the event. Most headlines followed a similar pattern. Mississippi woman shoots husband after Facebook argument. Nurse charged with murder in online jealousy dispute. Domestic shooting linked to social media activity. These headlines quickly gained traction on social media platforms. Once the news hit platforms like Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, Reddit, and TikTok, the case went viral. Screenshots of the original reports were shared widely, often with captions speculating about the cause of the shooting. Many users were surprised at the simplicity of the conflict, just a Facebook friend request. Some found it hard to believe that such a small digital action could trigger a fatal response. Others weren't surprised at all and claimed this kind of reaction was becoming more common. Comments and threads multiplied. People from across the country began weighing in with their own theories, judgments, and experiences. Some users focused on the husband. They questioned whether he had a history of controlling behavior, although no public record confirmed this. Others focused on the wife, debating whether her self-defense claim would hold up in court. A few questioned whether she planned the shooting in advance. The lack of a clear motive beyond social media interaction led to ongoing speculation. Content creators also joined the discussion. Several YouTube channels uploaded breakdowns of the case within 24 hours. TikTok users created short video summaries using the news clips. Podcasts included the case in their upcoming episodes. It wasn't just a news story anymore. It became part of the broader conversation about relationships and technology. Many of the articles and video commentary focused not just on the crime, but on the digital behavior that preceded it. Specifically, Rashawn Wallace's decision to reconnect with an ex-boyfriend via Facebook became the center of analysis. Online forums raised the question, can social media destroy marriages? Some users blamed Facebook entirely, saying platforms like it made it too easy to re-enter past relationships and hide conversations. Others disagreed and pointed out that the platform itself wasn't the problem. People's decisions were. Psychologists and relationship experts were quoted in some follow-up articles. They noted that online jealousy and suspicion are common in relationships where communication is poor. They also mentioned that many people underestimate how quickly a digital disagreement can escalate when trust is already low. These expert takes added a more clinical angle to the online debate. By the end of the week, the case had been reported in over 150 digital publications, including major national news websites. Rashawn Wallace's mugshot was shared widely. So were court updates, including the setting of her $50,000 bond and her first court appearance. The story was included in several viral crimes of the week roundups on national blogs and video news digests. It stayed in rotation online for several days. Some users even used it as a cautionary tale in their posts and videos, warning others about the risks of connecting with ex-partners or hiding messages from a spouse. As a result of the viral attention, the court case gained pressure. Legal analysts began monitoring its progress. Some speculated whether Rashawn's defense would focus entirely on self-defense or shift to claims of emotional instability. Others questioned whether prosecutors would push for full murder charges or allow a plea deal. Overall, media coverage didn't just report on the facts of the case. It expanded the story into a national debate about technology, marriage, and digital trust. What began as a shooting in a quiet Mississippi neighborhood turned into a larger reflection on how one online decision can lead to irreversible real-world outcomes. If this story touched you deeply and made you question what's real, be sure to tap the like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. For more gripping true crime stories that unravel the hidden truths behind heartbreaking cases, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest episodes, investigations, and powerful conversations. Thank you for joining us on this journey to uncover the truth and fight for justice. Together, we can shine a light where it's needed most. Stay safe, stay alert, and we'll see you in the next story.